Well then, good evening everyone, ladies and gentlemen across the world. Welcome aboard to WOR. This is the Legacy Division. It's going to be an absolute cracker of an event ahead of us as we take a trip, not to Miami on this occasion, but a trip over to Australia. More on that in just a few short moments. It is myself, Jota, not alongside Joseph here tonight. Bobberts are back alongside us for this one. Nice to have you alongside us for this one. We should be in for an absolute cracker now as we do take a trip over to Australia for this event. As we said, Miami off the calendar because of that major issue on the Ferrari pit box, I believe it is, and it's still not been fixed. So Melbourne it is.
Indeed, Melbourne it is, and for me at least personally, a better track. I mean, don't get me wrong, Miami has its ups and downs, it's got its flaws though as well, but you know, you can't go wrong with what is a legendary circuit that has been around for at least the best part of over 3 decades near enough now. The most memorable thing for me, well, there's quite a few actually, but the one for me is David Coulthard crashed into the pit lane in 1995. I think you might remember that one, Jota. Oh, yes. Back when he was racing for Williams before he eventually joined McLaren the following season. But no, yeah, legendary track. Obviously it's had its obviously changes throughout the years, obviously none the least obviously in that middle section, but the rest of the track has stayed exactly the same. But I'm looking forward to this. Obviously this last segment, 5 rounds to go, still anybody's guess as to who's going to win this, but what we do have for you in store is a wet qualifying session, or at least a wet Q1. Yes,
in just a few short moments we'll go to the coverage on that one. Sorry to make you feel old, Bobberts, but I can't remember that particular incident happening live because I wasn't born at that point. It was 97, I was born 95, that happened, so sorry to make you feel a bit older.
I was only 2 at the time, but still, you know, it's just some things you can remember, and that was just one of them.
I know of the incident, though. I know of the incident, if that helps, you know, because obviously the incident is so widely renowned, I think, for good old Murray Walker losing his cool at that incident occurring. Either way, we'll take a quick look at the standings before we get in qualifying then. The Suzuki Igniters extending their lead in the championship now to 616 points. ETA on 552, then a bit of a gap with Ventauri in third on 244, Future Racing Team on 201. IRT climbing up to the standings after that great British Grand Prix visit a few weeks ago, and now up to 5th. AMR are 6th, with EVR now up to 7th, RSC at 8th, Quest 9th, Hadrick is still 10th at the moment. Team TF10 just the point now behind the team that gave up the Aston Martin seat to the Spanish outfit. And then quick reminder as well of the drivers that are here tonight as well. And it's pretty clear cut here because we've got 3 people going to be serving a 5-place grid penalty because of their tardiness here. Bobberts, he's just couldn't turn up on time. AMR serving a 5-place, QRT serving a 5-place, RSC also serving a 5-place grid penalty.
Indeed, punctuality clearly isn't a thing, unfortunately, for those retrospective teams, and for each one driver per team as well. So that's their downfall. They're just going to have to make up for it in the race, or at least try and get as good a qualifying position as they can, and not start too far down the field. But time will tell on that, as you know, obviously Q1 is underway as we just keep on going. But yes, and also we do have an interesting GT game tag, which we're not going to mention. Either way, though, lap times are starting to come in thick and fast. Quite a few drivers already out there on the intermediate tyres, a few still in the pits, not bothering to come out just yet, but obviously plenty of time for that to change, plenty of time for people to get their laps in, but it is already looking quite congested, at least from what I can see in that first sector, as I'm just riding on board with T-Show, has already set a lap time, but he's going for a second attempt.
Yeah, just having a look at Misha on the other hand, and the EVR, oh, big tank slapper, well held, coming out of the penultimate corner of turn number 13. Now into turn 14 he will go, though. Now will Misha, just not looking particularly comfortable out there is the EVR man in the lean green machines that are the Kick Saubers. He'll come across the line and he'll go 4th fastest of anyone so far with that 1 minute 30.997. So again, not the blisteringly quick lap times. If you are wondering of the RSC man in P1, by the way, that's Lorenz. He's obviously known for his gamer tags, and he'll be known as Lorenz throughout this entire event, as he's beaten by TF10's Ticho, the Aston Martin going fastest, and the only one now into the 1 minute 29s with a 29.833, as we're just following FRT Dan, probably arguably FRT's best driver so far alongside Quantum. They're fielding their best drivers here tonight, so FRT on a final push here to try and consolidate the highest position they possibly can in the championship.
Yeah, I think you've perfectly summed it there. I think Quantum and Dan have definitely been the top two drivers for FRT this season. Dan has shown, he's not necessarily maybe had the quali pace, but or if he has been there, his race pace has certainly cemented that and has made up for it. Quantum has at times looked a little bit hot and cold this season, but he is a man who could just turn over the box at any given point, and he will obviously give his best 100% as he can every single week, and he brings the points at the end of the day, more often than not. So yeah, definitely their strongest lineup going into tonight. Arguably the same with quite a few teams out there as well, but you could also say there is quite a lot of drivers in these teams that are just as good as one another, as Max van der Geest there goes nearly 2/10 clear of T-Show for VNT into the mid-29s now. Times are going to come in thick and fast. The track's just going to get quicker and quicker. One thing I am noticing though, Jota, is a lot of cars, as I've just seen the Ferrari in the background there of Lorenz just getting very tail happy through turn 2. Everyone seems to be struggling for traction, and the rear grip seems to be minimal at best.
Yeah, no strong priority at the moment in terms of fastest lap times, apart from Leon, who's really set that early precedent by going 4/10 faster than his teammate. Ventauri 1 and 2 in this Q1 session. Of course, if you are new to the Legacy Division, WR Legacy Division, bringing you the finest of racing over 3 qualifying sessions here, and we are expecting potentially rain for Q1 and for Q2. It may dry up though going through Q3, so we'll keep an eye out on that one, as we're just following Dan now himself. He's just heading his way around turn 8 now, and then down that what is basically a straight, not straight at this point, still flat regardless of the wet conditions, as he comes across a few people just getting out of his way. Chucks the car through 9 and 10, and again just a little bit hesitant on the throttle is the McLaren. Looks like the FRT man just wanting to set a little bit of a benchmark maybe at the moment as well. Still one person on a wet tyre, by the way. Simbarox 1 Team QRT is still in the pit lane though, electing to use the wets, but he may switch to an intermediate before he sets off. Coming across turn number 11 and then 12 into turn 13, and of course turn 14. Very, very slow entries here for FRT Dan, looking not to set the timing boards alight, I don't think, but we'll see. It's a little bit of a collision into the wall, shouldn't be too much of a detriment though, as he comes across the line right now. 1:31.298. It wasn't quick for the FRT man, but again looking just to try and set some early precedent, but if that's the precedent he's going to set, FRT are going to be in a little bit of trouble, as we're now following Quantum on a hot lap around here going into turn 1, as Misha goes fastest for EVR.
Indeed, yeah. I think that we had the issue with Simrox once. While he was still on the wet tyres, he's just rejoined the session. So I did actually briefly mention before going on stream that his connection did not look great, and I think that kind of cemented that. And the fact he's just joined back in, over halfway through the session, but he's at least still got time to get out there and set a lap time. In fact, some drivers, not at least including both SCI drivers, are only just coming out onto track now, feeling as if they'll let everybody else lay the rubber down. But I can tell already, Jot, I don't know if you can as well, but I think that rain has already lightened off compared to what it was the best part of 5-10 minutes ago. So unfortunately, once again, Simrox 1 has left the session, definitely having a few gremlins with his internet.
Yeah, certainly some challenges at the moment for Simbarox 1, as the rain is starting to lighten up already, so we may be in actually for some dry tyres potentially midway through Q2. We'll see though. Remember, 15 minutes in qualifying, as it looks like one of the Ferraris, that it might have been Lorenz, has just come across the line to go with a 1:35.46. He's up to P9 now. Here's Quantum as he chucks the car through the right-hander of turn 12, turn 11, sorry, this is turn 12, and then turn 13, Max van der Geest gets improvement, and look at that, big lap time there of a 28.285. Track is starting to evolve pretty well now, and dry line perhaps a little bit forming here. EVR have gone second and third, by the way, with Knight and Misha. Pretty decent opportunity for them, but what's Quantum got in his locker? 28.0, goes fastest of anyone so far, but the lap times will come in thick and fast. With those lap times improving, there comes Leon. Look at that, another 6/10.
Indeed, yeah. Leon has certainly shown in these very early stages that is Sergio going into P4 now with a 28.2 of his own. But yeah, Leon, the best part of over 6/10 clear of the next quickest driver, being Quantum, who is renowned for his wet weather conditions, and obviously being on a pad got slight little bit of advantage, if there's such a thing. But either way, that is a very more than respectable lap time from Leon. But again, this track condition is, and the track itself is still going to improve. Times are still going to get quicker and quicker as time goes on. Still got both SCI drivers not set a lap time yet. They are both now on a lap. Oscar leading the charge from Volakongan, who obviously, remember from 2 rounds ago, had that wheel issue and almost put SCI a foot back actually after that race, but bounced back again last week. But yeah, got a lot still need to do.
All right, apparently it's not Lorenz, believe it or not, but we'll have to see anyway. Either way, I'm hearing that apparently it was, but I've been corrected by Lorenz himself in the chat, by the way, that it's not him. So we'll get full clarity on who the hell that RSC man is for just a brief moment. Either way, Volakongan, again, not looking particularly strong. Again, is it more of a conservative approach to these lap times here? Looking to just try and set, I don't know, some early indication here of some kind of improvements in terms of pace, in terms of grip out on the circuit. Now, there is a dry line just ever so slightly fading into view now, so opportunity, obviously, for the track to continue to evolve now over the next sort of 18 or so minutes. So we'll see what that is going to come as Oscar comes across the line to go 27.6. Where's Volakongan when he comes across the line? He's well down the field in SEI standards at 28.8 and puts in P8, actually not immediately knocked down to P9 as Mashuozo for IRT now going 7th place. IRT, a team in form at the moment as well, 6th and 7th respectively, but plenty of Q1 lap time to go here. The question is who is going to be the basically the fastest that this is going to appear. It's the fastest that this lap time is going to end up coming down to is going to be as the track evolves. As the track evolves, we'll start to see the track improve, the lap times will start to tumble, but the fastest drivers might not necessarily be the ones that end up scoring, quite well in this qualifier here now, Bobbers, because they'll end up in a position, won't they, where they're going to have to, go out as late as they possibly can because the track evolution is pretty strong.
It is indeed. I mean, considering the fact that we were in the 130s to begin with, we're already best part of 3 seconds quicker, and we've still got 5 minutes left in this qualifying session. So yeah, in the space of just over 10 minutes, we've managed to find 3 seconds as Quantum comes across the line and now gets us into the 26s. The first driver to do so goes half a second clear of Leon. So yeah, just showing that this much lighter rain, more of a not quite a drizzle just yet, but certainly, the track is improving and at a substantial rate as well. As as I say that, there goes the Ferrari into P2. But look at that, Quantum on brand new tyres, the Ferrari on 6-lap-old intermediates, and is only just over a tenth slower, just kind of showing that it's not just all down to the fresh tyres. It's just that maybe it's obviously a mixture of the fuel load and those tyres being up to temperature for more longer duration, perhaps. Yeah,
perhaps on that one as well, as we've just finally seen Simbarox 1 leaving the pit lane. Fresh set of intermediate tyres for him, but with 4 minutes to go, manages to connect. But again, look at that car. Again, just the little blips of internet connectivity issues here. Now, no doubt the administrators are going to be, what should we say, managing the situation in terms of the grip, because of course with all of these drivers now going flat out, if you have got, and remember Australia is quite a small track as well in comparison, a very thin track. If you've got someone lagging all over the shop, you're not going to know where they're on circuit. So maybe the administrator is going to keep a very firm eye on this QRT driver. If his internet doesn't improve, he might not even make the race.
Hopefully for Simrox 1's case, that isn't the issue. Hopefully it sorts itself out as even Eskrig there goes into P4, gets just ahead of Oscar, and the drive into the mid-27s at the moment. But yeah, it's good that at least he's managed to get out on track and that he's actually managed to connect, but he's only going to get 2 laps at this at most. And for a driver who's not done a lap in these conditions yet compared to everybody else in this lobby, he's already on the back foot as it is. I mean, if he can get himself out of Q1, that'll be a miracle, I think, to say the least, Jota. But yeah, certainly have to keep an eye on that connection. The fact that it is a little bit jumpy, I say a little bit jumpy. There's jumping and then there's that. So hopefully, maybe going into the race where we do have a restart, it might sort itself out. But let's see how he goes as he starts his first attempt.
Raphael, I believe, is the one that is in the other RSC man, by the way. So we'll just monitor that one as we get full confirmation on the situation. But yeah, it's not really fun when you've got gamer tags like that one. Either way, here's Simbarox 1 going through into turn number 3. As looks like Knights for EVR has gone fastest so far, with the another person into the 26s now, just beating Quantum's lap time by about 56 thousandths of a second. Here's Simbarox 1, 30.4 in the first sector, not blisteringly quick, but in the ballpark of around about Max van der Geest kind of range. So he's definitely finding the time. The problem is Max van der Geest's lap time came at a circuit which was a lot more wetter than what it currently is at the moment. As we now chuck the car through turn 9 and 10, how's this Williams Mercedes going to handle? Over the curb, no issue. Over this curb, no issue. And it looks like to me he can get on the power relatively okay, to be fair, as Max van der Geest now going fastest of anyone so far with a 1 minute 26.372. I really do think this is going to come down to the wire now. Who's going to be that last person willing to go, you know, all that distance in time in order to try and get the maximum out of the track before the checkered flag comes out. So that is going to be fairly critical here, and we may end up seeing some a few little mishaps from the front running teams here if they mistime this one. Here is Simbarox 1 then. Everyone will get at least on the board when he comes across the line right now, and he goes third fastest, 26.948. It's not a bad lap time in comparison. The problem is there's other people around probably set their lap times when the track was a bit wetter, so let's not say Simbarox 1 is definitely through.
No, he's going to have one more attempt, but he's not going to have all the battery at his disposal. So I have to keep an eye on it. So at the moment, he look, you know, 26.9 looks good, he looks comfortable, but obviously you've got all those down from 10th downwards in the 28 and arguing into the 30s as well for Thiago's sake, that are going to improve massively as Monza comes through the final corner. I think this is going to be his last and final attempt at a lap here. Coming to the line and was barely up on his time, if I'm brutally honest, but I say that I'm just eating my own words there. 3.5 seconds it was in the end. It's in mid 26 for Monza, goes P2 just behind Max van der Geest, but even Max's time is probably not safe at the moment, if I'm honest. I mean, it's a good time, but the fact that everybody, I say that,
oh, the traffic! Oh! We're sorry to interrupt. Yeah. We've got a collision. RSC, look at all of this mess. People are all in all of this traffic here, and people were completing laps. There's been an absolute chaotic scenario at the final couple of corners, and I think people have been caught completely off guard by people who were off the complete track here. So 7 seconds to go. People have left it very late indeed to get going. Is Raphael going to get across the line, I wonder? Goes across the line. No! 4 people have missed out as a result of all of that palaver at the final corner, and there's been a collision involving one of the Ferraris. Was it Raphael on this scenario? I believe it was. Lap times now coming in thick and fast, but there'll certainly be an investigation by the stewards as a result of this one, because it was just an absolute car park at turn number 13. I'm not sure what was going on there, but the drivers clearly not communicating at all with each other, and I think there's going to be a bucket of stewards reports to talk about what they have just witnessed. Here is Oscar, P13. We're going to have to keep an eye out the SCI man. As it stands so far, the championship leaders have got one driver knocked out of qualifying in Valakongen. FRT Dan also at risk as well. Where is Valakongen? He is currently at turn 11 at the moment, chucking the car through this right-hander into turn 12, 13 and 14. Where is Valakongen going to come? Is he going to be able at least to get somewhere in that region of the top 5? Feel a bit more comfort maybe in the 26.9s? Or has there been some mess-ups? Has that car park potentially caused some problems? Valakongen coming across then out of the final corner, heading down towards the start-finishing line where he will set a 1 minute 26.9 as Oscar, his teammate, goes fastest with a 25.9. 1 second, the difference is huge. Sergio for ETA 25.6. Quantum for FRT 25.4. VNT Leon coming across the line 25.5. That's the end of qualifying. It was a horrific car park at turn number 1. Pardon me, at turn number 13, and there will be investigations as a result of that one, but 56 thousandths of a second separating the top 2, and then after that, it's seconds we're talking about as a result of all of this wet conditions. The people that we have lost, both of the RSC drivers have gone. We've lost one of the IRT drivers, we've lost one of the MR drivers, and look who's at the back. We have lost the one of the ET8 drivers who starts at the back of the grid. Is that all because of what happened at turn number 13, I wonder?
I think it was. I mean, there was God knows how many cars that there was in amongst that mess. But yeah, I think what there was 2, maybe 3 drivers trying to complete lap times, and there's the best part of what 8 to 10 drivers potentially who got caught up in that mess. And I don't know who is more to blame than the other. Certainly, as you said, John, the stewards' inquiries are certainly going to come in at the end of this, because that was a little bit of a shambles. Obviously, there's no communication as to who's on laps and who's on out laps or whatever, or who's on a cooldown lap perhaps and was waiting to go again. But yeah, that was a bit of a palaver, and yeah, both RSC drivers are losing out as a result of it, and Azim as well. I did not expect Azim to be P20, but yeah, if he got caught up in that, then that's well, that's unfortunate for him. It's going to be down to his teammate Sergio, who at least was, fastest in Q1, but not whether they wanted one driver at the front, one driver starting last. Azim's got it all to do later on.
Well, here is a quick reminder, as well as everyone is in the pit lane. It looks like no one is going to be coming out immediately on this one. And, yeah, just absolute shocker of a scenario there. But one thing that we do know after all of that one is ETA. Is this league going to continue to be their Achilles heel when you've got one driver down at the back of the field in P20? It's going to have to be a monster of a race for Azim if he wants to try and not continue to extend SCI's performance at the moment at the top of the standings. Quick reminder of the event here tonight then. So Quantum and Dan are both racing for FRT tonight as well. Quantum, a decent effort towards the front of the field. Dan's struggling a little bit, but with the tracks beginning to improve, he might start to come into his own. Mattia and Raphael are both out of qualifying in Q1. Both of the Ferraris caught out, I think, by all of that palaver at turn number 13. And Raphael, on top of that, has to serve a 5-place grid penalty for being late to the lobby. Ventauris, Max and Leon in the Red Bull. Valakongan and Oscar, relatively decent from Oscar, but Valakongan down on pace. Thiago and Ticho for TF10. Sergio and Azim for ETA. Azim knocked out of qualifying in this one as well, and he'll start at the back in P20, excluding any penalties that need to be applied. Phil and Matsuoto as well, or Mashutso, I don't know. Either way, these are also out of qualifying. Alex Loffer and Ivan Eskrig. 5-place grid penalty for his lateness. Mon's also serving a 5-place grid penalty for Team QRT. He's alongside Simbarox 1, and then Knight and Misha, of course, at EVR. We are just about now getting going for the rest of this Q2 session now, as people are now just heading their way around the circuit. First person to be setting a lap, I believe, will actually be the Williams of Simbarox 1. He was the last person to set a lap in Q1. He'll be the first person to set a lap in Q2 as it stands.
Indeed, and I'm not saying I ate my own words with what I said about him, but the fact that he had one lap and one attempt to get that time in and that time on the board to get himself through into Q2, I mean, kudos to him for doing that. His connection looks a little better than what it was previously. Maybe it's settled down a little bit. One thing I have noticed, Jot, I think you can see that as well, is that much drier line that is now appearing compared to the rest of the track. Yeah. So, yeah, lap times are going to be even quicker again in Q2 than what they were in Q1. Could it turn dries at the end of the session? That might be a little hopeful in these remaining 12 minutes, but still, either way, well done to Simrox 1 again itself here, and to the other 14 drivers who did, minus the shenanigans that we had. But let's see what this Williams man can do. Both QRT drivers into Q2, but obviously, like you said, Monza has that 5-place grid penalty that he has to serve. So at least he will be he could still start P20 actually out of all this.
Yes, and that's the critical thing, isn't it? The drivers have got to find every moment, every pace bit, every second that they can now on a circuit that is certainly starting to improve. Rain's still falling on circuit, but as you said, dry line certainly becoming a more prominent factor around this circuit. We may end up seeing dry tyres if the humidity is low enough, but around Australia, humidity can be quite strong, so it might take a while for the track to warm up. We'll see, though, as he chucks the car through the right-hander. Guerrilla just stepping out ever so slightly for the Team QRT Williams Mercedes as he now approaches turn number 11. And remember, of course, in this main race, 4 DRS zones on this particular circuit as well. So every opportunity for overtaking around this particular circuit as a result when you're on equal cars usually brings a little bit more of a spicier affair with equal cars. So here he comes then through turn number 13 and turn number 14. It's decent effort here from Silverrocks. One looks more like a bit of a banker lap before he gets going here. With 11 minutes to go, he'll be the first person to set a lap. It will be followed by one of the IRT men. It's a 1:25.0. Certainly improvements here as Phil will come across the line on the invalid lap. So Valakongan will get a nice tow from Phil as he comes across the line and goes fastest with a 24.587. Plenty of other lap times are appearing on the board. We've got a Red Bull, I believe, coming across the line. In fact, Pala meets even Eskri for AMR. He goes slowest of anyone so far with a 25.4 as Oscar comes across the line and sets a lap time 3/10 faster than his teammates as well. Leon once again splitting the pair of them goes second fastest, whereas Knight coming across the line 24.6. Aston Martin Ticho 24.7, and then we've got the other EVR of Misha. He comes across the line on an invalid lap, would have been a 25.2. We've got Max van der Gees comes across the line, goes P4, and then the other Williams as well. Here he comes across the line as well. Monza, no lap time set on the board for him because it was an invalid lap. He gets going now on his lap. Other people yet to set a lap. Quantum comes across the line 23.7. Decent effort from him, but we've still got two people still in the pits. seriously. One of them FRT, the other, would you believe, it's ET8 again. What's happening? What are they cooking at ET8 in their pits at the moment?
Maybe just again, kind of like how SCI were doing in Q1, just letting the rest of the drivers, like, you know, lay the rubber down potentially, and yeah, going to go out. So, you know, confident enough in his pace, he's going to go out a little bit later on. I don't know if Dan was actually out on track and then went back into the pits and aborted. He is coming out now, so yeah, I'm not entirely sure as to what his strategy is on this. Obviously, his teammate is half second clear of Oscar at the moment, but yeah, these times are just going to come in thick and fast. Everyone's going to get quicker and quicker, but again, we're seeing this pace difference between teammates. You know, Leon and Max van der Geest separated by 0.2 of a second. The SCI drivers separated by 3.5 of a second. Yeah, see what Dan can do in comparison to his teammate. Can he get into the 23s? Well, time will only tell. But I think noticing a little bit more of a trend that drivers are mainly now only go for one flying lap here, and there's no point in fueling these cars for any more than what they were in Q1, because this track are drying up. And in fact, I say that even the wetter parts of the track are now actually getting to a point where they're almost dry themselves. I mean, it is still raining. You can see that on your screens as Monza goes into P2 and gets just ahead of Oscar. But yeah, it could someone dare think of putting some soft tyres on at the end of this session, I wonder?
Potentially, might be an opportunity if those are in the bottom 5 may want to potentially bite the bullet and gamble on that if the conditions are good enough. Remember, it's might be the track is starting to you know, not look as damp, but of course if the ground is still saturated, especially with it still raining, it's going to take a little bit of a long time for the soft tyres, or dry tyres rather, generally to be the better tyre. Here's Dan. We're looking to try and see what he's going to say. He's on an outlap at the moment. Is this McLaren Mercedes, as it will be McLaren MasterCard Mercedes as well from next year, won't it? The FRT, it gives us an opportunity to very quickly talk about Simmerock's one, by the way. It's just gone second fastest, and Phil's gone second fastest immediately out the blocks as well. Lap times coming in thick and fast. FRT, really up and down season this season for them. I think they had an opportunity to potentially show some serious pace, did the FRT men, because of course a bit more of an OG team now in the esports sphere, and obviously with all the other teams closing up shop, the Wolves themselves have decided to continue fighting, continue racing, and you'd have thought that perhaps they might have had a bit of an outside chance of getting into the top 3.
Yeah, and again, it's been another one of those it's another team where, I know they've had one victory this season, which actually goes back to the first race of the season for FRT, but since then, they've not had a podium finish since. Their best result since then was actually 4th place last time out, you know, before we had the week break. So, but again, the issue they've had is only one driver has been pretty much set, you know, getting those higher end place finishes, as it were, and the second driver hasn't really been there. I mean, again, I'm just looking at the standings. Whoever the second driver has been, the best result has been 7th. Outside of that, you're looking at, you know, minimal points or outside the points or did not finish it. So again, it's a team where they've shown potential, but they've not fully utilised that, or, you know, issues have happened, or one thing on top of another. So I mean, yeah, they're in P4 and could, you know, still have a chance of getting ahead of VNT for P3, but I think they, as well as I at least as well, expected a little bit more from FRT.
Yeah, we'll have to see anyway. Is this going to be a lap time that's going to be setting themselves up for a potential battle here as he comes across the line? Does the FRT down? It's P6, a 23.986. That's not quick in comparison to all the other teams that have set a lap time, including Ventauri. They just set their laps just in front of him. He was about a sector behind as Max van der Geest went fastest with a 23.2, but then immediately beaten by Leon, who is showing some serious pace here tonight for Ventauri in the Red Bull outfit. 123.083 at the moment. So pretty decent stuff out there at the moment for those at the front of the field. Still one person to set a lap, by the way. It's still the ET8 man here of Sergio. Now, are they waiting until the very last minute and trusting Sergio not to get caught up in all of that traffic again at turn number 13, I wonder? Maybe the drivers have got to learn the lesson, as I'm starting to see some people testing the soft tyres out in the pits to see if the soft tyre is the better tyre to be on. They're flicking between soft and inters to see, are we going to be on soft tyres towards the end of this qualifying session?
That's what Sergio is waiting for. Maybe he thinks there is absolutely 0 point on him going out on a set of intermediates to then, you know, go back out if he's going to be going out on soft. So maybe he's just saving those inters for I don't know, whatever reason, or he just thinks there's absolutely no point. But he's certainly playing a little bit of a dangerous game. You know, we've said this a few times this season, that, you know, they've had drivers going out at the wrong time, and they've paid a price for it, and as a result, that's why they are, you know, that's why they're second in the championship, because not just the fact that they've not outscored, you know, Shizzy on as many occasions as they should have done, but qualifying has at times been their Achilles heel. Like, you know, going back to Qatar where I commentated with you there, Jota, that one springs to mind straight away. Well, there we go. DRS is now enabled. Soft tyres maybe are the way to go.
Yeah, well, the track is still drying, and now no rain is falling on circuit either. So are we now at a point where potentially the choice tyre is now the dry tyre, I wonder? We'll see anyway, as we've got people diving into the pit lane and wrapping it up here for this particular session on the Inters. They'll move over to the dry tyres is what we suspect. Leon Max van der Gies have now done exactly the same thing. But remember, track evolution is still going to be a factor. This track is now not at its fastest. It's going to continue to get faster, so it would be, again, rather unwise for people to just set themselves out now on a set of soft tyres right now, because the grip's not going to be great. You're going to burn through a set of soft tyres, and by the time you get back in, everyone's going to be about a second and a half faster a lap anyway, so you might as well wait it out now for the next sort of 2 minutes or so.
Yes, but are we then going to have not quite the same shenanigans as you know, the end of Q1 at least, but we're certainly going to have a bit of a car park though going into that final sector, and obviously drivers will want to be, as you said, you know, towards the back, if not at the back, to be the last person to set a lap time. But everyone else is going to want to do the same thing, and some people might run out of time again, like we saw in Q1. So it's that precedent of, do you want to go out early, make sure you get a time on the board, as some drivers are now beginning to do so. Some of them are actually going on track, and that is both Aston Martins. Both TF10 drivers are not going to take the chance. They want to get on track and ensure that they get a lap time on the board, or at least if they mess up, they can go again. So a little bit of smart thinking there from TF10 to get out now, test the waters a little bit, and if they want to back out and recharge, they have the opportunity to do so.
Well, that's answers on a postcard, folks. We do have people now leaving the pit lane. Looks like Phil is still contemplating an intermediate tyre here at the moment. He's flicking between inters and softs. Even Eskrig doing something similar. Team TF10, though, have decided to break the mould. They have decided we would rather not be in that car park and risk it out. We think that the track is going to be dry enough that the delta is not going to be as extensive when people come across the start-finishing line at the last opportunity. So they've decided that they just want to get on with it of the Aston Martin outfit.
Indeed, and now, well, I say closely followed, about half a lap and half a track behind them are the Kick Saubers of Misha and Knight as well. So teams are coming up 2 by 2 actually really at the moment. But yeah, T-Show is going to be the first driver to give us an idea on what the track is like now, as he's really warming up those tyres coming to, you know, down that DRS straight, and maybe the track's still not quite warm enough that it is a bit difficult to warm these tyres up a little bit. But either way, the one new issue now that TF10 may face is not the fact on, you know, having people behind them or anything. It's the fact that they're going to have a massive queue of the rest of the entire field in front of them that they're going to have to maneuver their way around. Let's see if that plays out for them, but this could be a bit of fun to watch for them as their T-shirt goes into turn 1.
Right, so here they go then. Team TF10 are getting on with it. While this is happening as well, I nearly said it then, EVR are the team that have also set their drivers out a little bit early as well, as have actually both of the, I believe that one actually to be the slow cars, would be the Red Bulls actually, so both Vin Towers have also been sent out as well. We're going to keep an eye out on the Aston Martins as well, so this is Teacher. I'm just going to see what his Sector 1 split is like. Look at that, 9/10 of a second on his fastest lap, so definitely considerable track evolution here, and actually setting purple in the first sector as well. So track's of course going to continue to evolve now with these fresh soft tyres on the cars. They're naturally going to be faster. The question though is there going to be enough grip this early on in the qualifying session, considering everyone else is still on outlaps, and are they going to find themselves in a real pit of trouble? They are, and it looks like to me Ticho's already abandoned this one. He's just going to connect to the back of the queue, and he's going to hope that maybe just an extra warm-up lap, have they gone for like a cool push effectively, have Team TF10 to to try and maximise the tyres, I wonder. How much time have we got left? We don't know, because the yellow flag is blocking our view. So the first person to be setting a lap in this queue will actually be the Kick Sauber, by the looks of things, who's just come across the line of Misha. Knight is on a lap at the moment as well, as we're still seeing a bunch of people all in that car park at the moment, down at the back. Look at that, people still waiting to get going with the laps, but they've just set off now, so it looks like a little bit cleaner on that occasion, but everyone in really close proximity. Dirty air could be a serious factor. Is Volakonga going to go across the line? He certainly will. Everyone's managed to get across the lap time, so it will be hot laps now all the way to the end of this session. First person to set a lap, by the looks of things, will be the EVR man of Knight. He was set out a little bit earlier, a bit like the TF10 team, but he's decided that he's not going to do a cool push. It was only ever going to be a cool and a push. Here he comes then. It'll be the first person to set up on the soft tyre, so he will go fastest. A 1:17.857. Other lap times will be coming in thick and fast. We've got Max von der Geest comes across the line, a 1:17.5 from Max von der Geest, as Leon comes across the line right now, and he goes fastest with a 1:17.4. It's a great effort from the Ventauri team, but will it cost them, because they've gone out a little bit earlier in comparison to everyone else? There is going to be, in just a few short moments, folks, a very quick flurry of lap time, so apologies if we get tripped over words. Misha comes across the line, goes, oh, it's only a 1:18.5 from him. Monzo, 1:17.7 from QRT. Phil comes across the line, 1:18.0. Got a Williams coming up of Simbarox 1, 1:17.9. I believe it's Quantum. No, it is not. It's Dan. He goes 1:17.6. Other lap times coming in thick and fast from others as well. Next person to go across the line will be Oscar. He goes fastest, 1:17.4. Quantum beats him with a 1:17.1. Here comes Ticho, 1:17.8. It's looking risky. That's the end of qualifying, all at the flick of a knot. Once again, though, Quantum showing his pace, but now we're on a dry track. Quantum leads the way from the front. Those knocked out, Tiago, Phil, Misha, Ivan Eskrig, and Sergio, who didn't get a lap time on the board.
Well, they've risked it again, and by not even getting a lap of the intermediates. He's not even at least P14, is Sergio, but that has been a shambolic and awful qualifying session for 88. P15, P20, yes, we've got the grid penalties to sort out, so they may move up the field a little bit. Either way, though, that is not what they wanted in qualifying. And look at that. 8-10 separating the top 10 there. Simrox 1 gets makes his way through to Q3 in P10, but Volakongan only P9 himself. Teetering on the edge there and almost going out, but he manages to get through at least. But yeah, Quantum once again leading out at the front, showing the pace that he's got in both wet and dry conditions. But he's still got the likes of Oscar and Leon hot on his heels. And based off what we've seen, Jota, I think it's going to be potentially between those three for pole.
Yeah, potentially. We'll have to see anyway, as the track will continue to evolve. But the question is when will the evolution end over the next 12 minutes of qualifying then? Keep an eye on this one, folks. Favourite for pole, who knows? Just a quick reminder of the standings going into this one. Of course, Shazoo Cedar Igniters, both of their drivers through to Q3 on 616 points. ET8 on 552 have both lost their drivers before they got to Q3, one starting at the back of the grid before penalties after exiting Q1 in P20, the other exiting Q2 in P15. It's an absolute shocker from the Spanish outfit in P2. Ventauri have got both of their drivers through on 244. FRT are hot on the heels, though. They are just behind by the close of 43 points. They're also both through to Q3 as well. IRT have lost both of their drivers. They're 5th overall. AMR 6th from EVR 7th, RSC at 8th, Quest Racing Team QRT 9th, and then Team TF10 down in 11th place, on 1 point behind the team that gave them the Aston Martin keys at Hadrick Racing. Let's go over back to the live for broadcast then, because we are just about there now in terms of people getting themselves ready. They're very keen to get going here. It'd be interesting to see what the track evolution is like now. Is track evolution still going to be a factor looking at this track? I would want to argue potentially, I do think there's potentially just a little bit more track evolution to happen, but I don't think it's going to be quite the car park that we saw in the last couple of qualifying sessions.
Oh, definitely not. And that one thing you can actually just about make out potentially is how much brighter it is. The sun may actually come out at some point. You never know, but you can certainly see as the track has gripped up, it's dried up. Drivers are probably going to be sent lap times in the 16s now, coming to this qualifying session. The one thing I did want to touch on as well, Jota, is both QRT drivers obviously are in through to Q3. They are currently 9th in the standings and 6 points only off 7th. So this is going to be, and I know Monza does have that grid penalty, but this could be an important day for QRT if they want to move themselves, potentially up to P7 into the standings. So keep an eye on that one, see how that goes. But yeah, T-Show, the only TF10 driver to get through into Q3. Well, let's see how he goes as we come through the first sector. Excuse me, sorry, I was waiting for that to come through, but what's it going to be? It's a 26 lap there from T-Show through sector 1. I think you're going to be expecting people in the high 25s as this session unravels and unfolds a little bit more, but either way, looking fairly smooth, looking a lot easier. DRS now obviously fully open with these soft tyre compounds now. 142.9 end of that middle sector. I mean, compared to that where we were in Q1, that's the best part of 7 or 8 seconds quicker than what we were the best part of 20 minutes ago. Coming down now into the 90-degree right-hander. Watch out for the inside sausage curve there on the inside line. Don't run out too wide, as he almost did there. Can really unsettle the car through the third to last corner into the penultimate corner now. Easily can lock up the brakes here and just roll the car too far wide. The last corner is a bit of just a traction waiting to get onto the power through the final corner. No such issues there for the Aston Martin. And to the line, it's a 15 flat to kick us on the wrist. That was me saying about 16s. I was completely wrong. It's probably going to be 14s.
Yeah, a 15.3 coming across the line from Knight as well. Matched in the third sector. His sector 2 though was shocking in comparison to Ticho. Quantum with a 14.6. Oscar coming across the line with a 14.5. I did think 16 would be a bit more on the conservative approach, if I'm honest with you on that one. And again, the best drivers within the esports sphere showing that the pace is certainly there, but is this now approaching the end of the track evolution, I wonder? Max von der Geest coming across the penultimate corner, turn number 13 and turn number 14. We're expecting big things from Ventari tonight. Leon is looking very quick, but his teammate is not too far behind as he comes across the line right now. It's a 1:14.9 for him, but Leon has been the considerably faster driver, but it will be an invalid lap from the Red Bull, so he will dive into the pit lanes and get off of those set of soft tyres and have another go at this one. So 4 drivers yet to set a lap. Simbarox 1, Valakongan, Leon and Monza. Leon is definitely one to consider for pole position. Oscar and Quantum similarly. Max von der Geest on the outskirts potentially as well. But Venturi showing initially that they're struggling a little bit now the drier conditions are starting to come into play.
Indeed, yeah. The other thing as well is obviously even in the wet conditions, but more so when he's dry conditions, you can easily cut or extend quite a few of these corners here around the Melbourne International Circuit, around Albert Park. So yeah, we're just gonna have to, they just have to might take it a little bit more conservative. The only good thing for those who didn't set a lap time, obviously on their first runs, so obviously Simbrox 1, Volakongan, Leon and Monza, as Volakongan is already out on track, they still have just about enough time, if they can, to get 2 more attempts in. They'd have to be very quick on getting back into the pits again, but it gives them the option if they wanted to complete the lap or just set themselves on another sighter of a lap maybe and go for one final attempt at the end. But again, it comes down to, is this track going to continue to improve as the sun has now started to come out ever so slightly, I think, in some parts of the track, or at least it's just a lot brighter. So yeah, the track temperature is certainly going to ramp up a little bit. Will that help the soft compounded tyres? At this stage, I would say yes. They're certainly not going to overheat too much. I would have thought so. But yeah, pressure is on, though, for these 4 drivers, not least for Volakongan. This is a big chance for SCI to extend their advantage over ETA. They've got to take full advantage of their poor qualifying. And, well, let's see what he can do.
Let's see what he can do indeed. Valakongan will be the first person set of their lap time within this group of 4 who are a little bit out of sync then. Valakongan coming across the line to start his lap now as he approaches into turn 1 and takes turn 2. I'm going to very quickly hand this back over to Bobberts actually, because I'd like to hear the professional racing driver's view of the Albert Park here as he approaches into turn 3.
There's that button on the, well, let's see how that goes. Either way, through turn 3 there, car looking quite settled under braking there. Easing off the throttle through turn 4 was a little bit squirrely there, as the turn 5 is just a flat out kick, so no such issues there for him. Up into 7th gear, I would normally say the shadows are a big factor coming in through turn 6 and 7, but obviously the sun's not fully out yet, so no such issues there for him. Coming through turns 8, which obviously is just technically a straight. DRS now open. Let's see what sort of speeds the Volakongan is going to reach. Well over 200 miles an hour peaked at 205 before we then get into the fast flowing left and right. Car looking very balanced there through the curves. No issues there for the Mercedes, man. Back onto the DRS again, back into medium now for this 90-degree right hand. As I said, avoid that sausage curve on the right hand side. Does that very nicely. Takes just about enough curve on the exit to not unsettle the car. Keeps it in 6th gear and almost full throttle there, if not full throttle, through that right hander into the penultimate corner. Does not lock up as you might see other drivers do. So patience onto the throttle through the final corner now. Avoid the wall on the exit. We've seen many drivers there in real life crash there, not the least Michael Schumacher. But it's only a 15 flat there for Volokong, and still a good half a second off his teammate, and just showing the struggles he's had this entire qualifying session. And it is all down to Oscar for SCI.
43-1 in the second sector from Ventari's Leon. He is flying out there. He won't be the next person to settle out. Both of the Williams will be setting lap times, I believe. Oh, it's a little bit wide, though, going out of turn 11. That's not going to be helpful for Leon, as one of the McLarens is slowing down just behind him. Chucks the car through left-hander again. A bucket of understeer going through turn 13 for the Red Bull RBPT Honda, as they will be changing to Ford, of course, next season in real life. F1, here he comes across the line right now. Oh, wow, 15-1. It's, again, when the dry conditions come into play, that Red Bull is not looking particularly strong, and actually Max von der Geest actually out qualifying Leon here by about 0.2 of a second at the moment, though. Four minutes to go, though, left in this session, as Oscar has gone even faster in the second sector. He's gone into the 42s now, has Oscar, so this could be one to keep a very firm eye out on indeed, because he's gone purple. Here he comes then through 11. Is he going to wash out wide? Actually, a little bit of oversteer on this occasion for the Mercedes, as he chucks the car through the right-hander of 12 into 13 and then into 14, where Oscar will now do his best to actually dive into the pit lane. He's had enough of this particular tyre, and he will now dive in and probably a fresh set of boots on. There's more pace in that Mercedes than meets the eye.
It's best about 3/4 of a tenth up at the end of the middle sector, but yeah, I do think coming through turn 11, that bit of a slide will certainly have cost him some time. Couldn't get on the power as much as he would have liked. Either that, or he just thought, you know, I would like to get it back into the pits and go again if these conditions are just going to continue to slightly improve as the session goes on. 0.8 of a second covers the top 9. Monza still yet to set a lap time now, and he is one of 3 drivers, as we've mentioned, to have a 5-place grid penalty. So at the moment, he'll be starting P15, so he'll want to get a lap time on the board and will want to get up as high as he can to, you know, try and be on the fringes of that, you know, 10th place starting position potentially. But yeah, he's had 2 invalidations. He's going to have to go again and try and set a better lap time. As once again we see the Aston Martin of TF10 coming out early and going out on track straight away. And T-Show once again doing that, but he's not going to have a chance to do the push cool push. It's going to be just a push lap with 2.5 minutes left to go.
Whoop, caught me off guard. Hello. We've just got Ticho. It's just like, I completely caught me off guard there. As I'm just keeping an eye on Ticho, with 2 minutes and 20 seconds to go in this lobby. Once again, TF10 team willing to send at least one of their drivers out. Well, it's the only driver out actually in Q3, isn't it? Out a little bit earlier in comparison to everyone else. Is this going to be, as I said, a cool push, or is this just going to be a cool push scenario? It didn't work entirely at the end of Q2 for one of the drivers, but it worked okay for Ticho, so maybe another opportunity to do another cool push here. Other people on outlaps, as well as people just leaving now the pit lane. Simbarox 1 will be the last person, I think, to leave the pit lane, because Quantum is in fact just leaving now, so actually it will be Quantum the last person to set a lap in this session, and actually that being the main pole sitter could be fairly critical here, so keep an eye out on that McLaren Mercedes. FRT Dan also leaving the pit lane alongside him as well. So first person to get going here will be Ticho, but will the TF10 team man go straight away, or will he have an opportunity to potentially cool down again? 1 minute 20 seconds to go. He hasn't got a large delta, so I think he's got to have to get on with it here. Here he comes then through turn 1, through turn 2. Yeah, relatively decent, to be fair, from the Aston Martin Mercedes. He'll approach now into turn number 3. Get on off the power as early as you can. Chuck the car through this right-hander. Where is Ticho looking? A little bit of a wiggle on, but looking relatively decent. Actually, you know what? This is not a bad first sector at all from the TF10 team, man. What's the sector 1 split looking like as he comes across now? 69 thousandths of a second faster than his previous best. Nice.
Yeah, Carl looked very planted actually, especially coming through turn 4 where we're riding on board with Volakongen before earlier on. His car was a little bit unsettled, so yeah, very balanced is that Aston Martin. Coming through the middle split now, finds a few more hundreds, just over a tenth up now at the end of the sector 2, but certainly I'm guessing it's his final sector where he's lost quite a bit of time into the likes of Quantum and Oscar in particular. Maybe that's where they're so much quicker and why they've got that 3 and 4/10 gap over the rest of the field. Through turn 11 now, he's got a bit of traffic in front of him now. That Williams, is it going to be out of his way or is it going to be right on the racing line? The answer is Simbrox 1 is kind of in his way ever so slightly, but not really enough to sort of hold him up though, baby. He's going to get a bit of a slipstream though, coming down the pit straight. DRS open. Where's it going to be for T-Show? He's up to P3, goes ahead of Max von der Geest. Arguably, you could question whether he lost time or not coming through the final couple of corners. Either way, that's his qualifying done. The first to set a lap time. Now we ride on board with current P5 man Volakongen, 10th and a half up at the moment. He's the next driver to finish his lap.
Oscar, by the way, is absolutely flying. His first sector was looking very strong indeed. Coming across then at the final couple of corners here for Volakongen, his teammate of Oscar's. He'll be hoping to try and get up there. Is it going to be a front row lockout? Are they going to maximise the damage they can against ETA after their poor qualifying? No, it'll only be P3 for Volakongen, and there will arguably be some faster lap times coming in as Monza comes across the line with a 14.8 and goes up to P5. We've got other lap times coming in. The Mercedes, other Mercedes of Oscar is just now coming across turn number 14 rather, as he now approaches the start finishing line. He's going to improve by how much? About a tenth of a second. It's a 14.404. Keep an eye out on FRT Dan. He'll be the next person across the line. Where's he going to come as he comes across the line? It's a solid P5 from Dan. Here comes Ventaure, Max von der Geest, P3, looking decent. Leon's been best though throughout this entire qualifying, but the dry conditions has absolutely compromised everything that Leon has got, and he goes to P6. Simbarox 1 will come across the line right now. Will he go any faster? He goes to P9. He's beaten Knight on this occasion, as Quantum has gone up to P2 in all of this, but it's only 0.2 of a second. Oscar was the one that had the pace from start to finish. He's shown everything that he needs in Q3, and SCI are on pole position, but they are not tied together on the front row. Volakongen in fourth, split by FRT and Ventauri in their own little battle for P3 in the standings.
I think, if I'm honest, Volakongen might actually take that, considering how low down he was, especially after Q1 and Q2, almost getting eliminated from both sessions. I think he'll take that. Especially, he's ahead of both Leon, obviously, who looked, sublime in the wet conditions and not really showing that into the dries, and his teammate in the end beat him quite comfortably. They kind of switched in terms of, how much they were each quicker than one another. Either way, though, Oscar showed pace in both sessions, well, all three sessions there, with a 14.4 to get pole position. Quantum actually was 0.3 down when I briefly went on board with him on his final run, so obviously a mistake cropped in somewhere, but he still manages to hold on to P2 at least. But yeah, FRT versus VNT, both drivers are all each close together. That could get quite tasty going into the race. But yeah, obviously now we're going to have to, unfortunately, have a restart and have a little break.
Yes, of course, because as a quick reminder, as well as we just see that countdown ticking away, we do have 5 place grid penalties to apply as well to certain drivers across the field, because in this one, Raphael has got to serve his 5 place grid penalty, Ivan Eskrig also a 5 place grid penalty, and Monza has got to do exactly the same thing as well. So this lobby will be temporarily restarted whilst we get the people on the grid set up, and then we will have our race in Australia. That means we're now heading on for a very quick break as we take a trip over to Australia. It showed immediately that SCI have got the pace with one of their drivers, and the other one actually within relatively close proximity. The problem is they've got 2 teams battling out for P3, splitting the pair of them. What's going to happen in Australia? We'll find out in just a few short moments. Don't go away. Here we go then, folks. Welcome back to WOR. This is the Legacy Division. It is myself, Jota, alongside Bobbert. So yes, your usual pairing here for this particular event, as we have had a little bit of a break, a little bit of a soother, as people have just got themselves ready for what will be no doubt a very, very intense Grand Prix ahead of us. Very quickly on this one, as we just got the drivers currently on the screen right now. The reason for the delay, of course, Monza, Ivan Eskrig and Rafael have to have a 5-place grid penalty assigned to them. This as a result of their lateness to the lobby. So that's the reason why we are a little bit later to the field. But we're now here. We're ready and raring to go here, Bobberts. We should be in for an absolute cracker.
We certainly should be, and if qualifying certainly is one thing to go by, the race could potentially be another, could be something else in addition to what we saw in qualifying. Obviously, we had the shenanigans of Q1 with the car park, and then drivers not realising others were on laps and not getting out of the way. We then had not quite this, similar issues in Q2, but we had drivers not setting lap times at the end of the soft tyre compound, not the least obviously of ET8 with Sergio, and then obviously Q3 we had, a bit of a swap around in terms of some drivers with their relative teammates at least, swapping positions or places in terms of who was quicker in the wet or dries. But you had actually the same two people at the front throughout the entirety of that, which was Oscar and Quantum. That is why they're on the front row of the grid. They were separate by about a quarter of a second, but still that is why they're they're good in all kinds of conditions. And going out onto the track, at least it certainly looks a lot drier than what we had through Q1 and Q2.
Yeah, certainly a bit overcast as well. Quick reminder, of course, that we are now on our final stint, of course. This is the final 5 rounds of this championship. We start here in Australia, replacing Miami, of course, and then we take a trip over to Japan next week before we then go to Monza, the Temple of Speed, Saudi Arabia, and then we're rounding it up where else but in Abu Dhabi. And remember, there is a sprint race as well on round number 13 at Italy. We're heading it over now to the live stream because we're about to get going for this Grand Prix. We're only a few short moments away from this particular event. I think we've got confirmation of the time here, and no, we haven't actually. We'll get a confirmation on that one imminently. It should be within the next couple of minutes. So very quickly here then, Bobberts. Obviously, we're at Australia. This is not the track that everyone planned for. We were expecting to be at Miami, but the glitch in the Ferrari pit box sort of put RSC at a little bit of a disadvantage. So we take the trip here. Might have caught a few people off guard, but SCI Oscar looking like he's on top.
Yeah, certainly, and he's definitely shown that in comparison to his teammate Volakongan as well, who's been behind him by, good 3/10 or more throughout the entirety of qualifying, especially, obviously he did close that gap up at the end on the soft tyre compound in the dry conditions, but yeah, Oscar just showing the electric pace that he's had, and when he has been racing, he's been pretty much on fire throughout the entirety that he has, number of rounds that he's done throughout this Legacy Division, but yeah, have to wait and see if he can convert that pole position into a race win, but he's obviously got a tough competition with Quantum and Max von der Geest. Obviously, those two teams for FRT and VNT battling away for P3 in the standings, and obviously their teammates Dan and Leon start, side by side themselves in P6 and P7. So, 2 of each drivers are all, they're going to be right next to each other. Could there be some argy-bargy? We'll wait and see. Hopefully they can keep it clean and but bring us, a good action-packed race. That's what we want to see as we get out onto the grid.
Yeah, we should be very good here as the drivers are now waiting for those lights to go out here in Australia. No more waiting. Let's go racing here then in Australia, and Quantum getting a very decent start on Volakongan already, but it looks like here Oscar is able to hold on here for P1. Quantum getting around the outside then of Volakongan here to hold on to that position. Volakongan getting a decent start then for P4 up to P3 already here for the Mercedes man as well. We've got more people as both of the it looks like both of the RSC struggling side by side action as Ticho getting into the mix as well. Around the outside he'll go with Max von der Geest. He's still there. Off the circuit he will go. They're still side by side through here. Precarious at best round here. Here comes FRT Dan also in the mix as well, and they will now go line astern as they go through the right-hander of turn number 6. It's Precarious at best going side by side through there, and actually Max von der Geest getting caught out a little bit at that corner as a result of the Aston Martin. So here now comes the FRT Dan. Is he going to get closer? No, he's just going to have to hemorrhage that time by the looks of things. Right behind him at VNT's Leon as well. Tiago is in P8 from Simbarox 1 for QRT. IRT Phil also getting in the mix as well to round out the top 10. Remember, top 15 15 score points in this particular race, and Monza is in the point scoring positions. He's trying to climb up to P10. Side by side they'll go. Simbarox 1 is starting to lag as well. This is not helpful. Great start from ET8 and Sergio up to P12 now, with Azim now up to P15, and that singular point as well for P15, as we've got side by side action here happening between AMR and RSC as they finish the first lap of this race. Oscar still leading the way from Quantum, Volakonga, Ticho and Max van der Geest in the top 5.
Definitely what Volakonga needed to get that move done ahead of Max van der Geest and Tisho, doing the same thing with a bit of wheel-to-wheel contact between the pair of them, and that almost allowed FRT down to try and take advantage of that, and having both the FRTs ahead of both VNT drivers would have been exactly what they would have wanted. But he's at least ahead of Leon. They have, maintained that P6 and P7, but have swapped places, as Sergio now trying to get another position done, and indeed he does get that move done, gets ahead of Phil to P11. Phil now dropping backwards, and he's still dropping backwards. I'm not going to say it's a Ferrari engine issue with that Haas, but he is certainly struggling. He's now down to P13, yeah, but great start there by both Alpines there. Asim going into P12, he's now already behind his teammates Sergio in P11, so they're doing what they need to do. They're getting moves done early, but they've still got a long way to go to catch both the SAR drivers who are first and third.
Yeah, great effort from Ticho as well to hold on for P4 now for Team TF10. It's a good points hold that they need in order to get off of the foot of the table and at least get into the top 10 now, of course, after the keys of the Aston Martin handed over to them by Hadrick Racing when they retired from this season of Legacy Division, and I think retired from life as well, as far as I'm aware, because I think the team is now defunct. Either way, Max van der Geest in P5 as well, the Red Bull. Decent start from him as well, obviously in the little bits of a scrap, trying to maximise the points hold that they can. Remember, their main scrap is actually with FRT in the standings. This is obviously in that strong battle for P3 in the standings. The gap is about 40 points between the McLarens and the Red Bulls as it stands so far, with Quantum in P2. FRT going to close up the gap to Venturi, but not by much, with Venturi Leon in P7.
Indeed, yeah. So, Quantum will probably want to try and get the lead if he can, but he's doing a good job there hanging on to Oscar. He's all over the gearbox of that Mercedes and did set the fastest lap on lap 2 there, as we know, obviously going to lap 3, but they're not really using that battery. Yeah, they're quite conservative with it, really, let's put it that way. I mean, Quantum's probably not going to be wanting to go for him anytime soon, just going to stick it behind the Mercedes and just help him to drag him along until potentially the end of the stint. Obviously, we do have a slight little mix of tyre compounds here, as Monza goes ahead of his teammate Simbrox on there into P9, so maybe a team strategy call there to swap the Williams and the QRT drivers around. Monza has shown that he's been a little bit quicker than his teammate, but now they've got both ETA drivers hot on their heels. Sergio going to be the first one to try to take advantage.
And I tell you what, as well, I want to make another bold call. Quantum's getting closer to Oscar here, and I think with that DRS now available, Quantum is actually in prime position here to potentially put some pressure now on Oscar, and what a decent win this would be for FRT. Remember, this would be their first race victory and first podium since round 1 in Monza for the McLaren Mercedes outfit, as it looks like the other RSC man is now back in the pit lane already. Looks like some issues for him. I think it's Raphael, as we're just following Quantum, now getting closer once again to Oscar. Now, you know, look, opportunity knocks for FRT. They've got a very quick driver in a very good position here. SCI, they're sort of ruling the roost here in this particular championship. They don't need to make any sort of critical errors, but, critical decisions here. If they think Quantum's a faster driver, I think Quantum is probably a better position to take the lead out of Oscar, and Oscar not put too much pressure on the McLaren Mercedes, as it looks like he's getting closer and closer and closer, but once again not able to get the move done. He'll get another dose of DRS down here as he comes out of turn number 10, but no move on the occasion here as well. Remember, 4 DRS zones on this circuit. This is the third one out of all of them, the fourth one of course on that back straight after turn 14.
Yeah, so several and many different overtaking opportunities for all the drivers here. Raphael had actually lost both end plates on both of his sides of his wing there, so had to get that changed. I'm guessing that happened on the first lap, someone must have missed that. But there goes. Both ETA drivers have now got ahead of Simbarox 1. Who seems to be struggling ever so slightly, whether it's down to his connection still. I mean, he does look a little better. It's not jumping as much as it was, but he certainly hasn't quite got the pace compared to both ETA drivers who are now running P10 and P11 and will want to get ahead of the second QRT driver on Monza, but he has arguably been QRT's much quicker driver and has shown he's got good pace here after that qualifying that he did. I think it was P8 overall. Had that 5-place grid penalty, but he's back up into P9 already. So yeah, good start at least from him, at least on one side of the garage. Out in front, Oscar still leads the away. 4.5 tenths is the gap back to Quantum. That gap is kind of just stabilised. But they are slowly pulling away from Volakongan, who, again, showing that he's not quite got the pace compared to the front two. And he's going to have to burn that battery just a little bit more to ensure he stays within that second, as Dan now closes in on the lead VNT driver, and he's going to put him under pressure.
Yeah, so both McLarens actually in decent position here to potentially be probably the drivers closest to making some kind of overtake. Now, Dan, characterisation of his race pace, he does use a little bit more of his ERS in comparison to all of the other drivers, so he is going to be particularly quick now, but as the ERS starts to burn, he'll start to struggle on the straights, of course. Here is Quantum then. We'll see, is he going to look for any roads? He's coming out of the final corner using some overtake to get as close as he can to Oscar. DRS available in the 4th DRS zone as they then head through into turn number 1 and turn 2. There's another DRS zone going into turn 3. Here it is right now, and once again Quantum not getting on the power as early as he possibly could do here. I think he's got a little bit more pace in his back pocket at the moment as Quantum. I think he knows he's potentially the faster driver.
Indeed, but at the same time, he's not wanting to take any risks. He'll just want to save that battery and just, he thinks that if Oscar's certainly quick enough, which it does look like it, he'll just stick him behind for the time being. As the one interesting thing I've just noticed, I've done a few of as well, Jota, is ET8 have already boxed Azim to get out of that, mid-pack DRS tray that he was obviously behind his teammate, and has gone for a very bold strategy. Now, I'm not too sure if this is a 2-stop race or if it's a 1-stop race. We'll certainly wait and see, but that's a very early stop there, and he's going to try and go for an undercut to try and propel himself further up, as we've now got a break in the trade. And Simbrox1, who I'd mentioned, I think was struggling a little bit for pace, he's now dropped out of that DRS to Sergio in front of him, and we've now got a 10-car lead train.
Yeah, and that's Simbarox1, now the lead car of a train from 11th down all the way as far as P17 at the moment. In fact, now make that P13 because it looks like Misha's just struggling to stay in the DRS of his teammate, as Sergio has now been pitted as well. ET8 are committed to some very early pit stops here for the Alpine Renaults, and now Sergio will now be in, and now they're going to have a completely clean air for them to manage their own race pace. What are ET8 cooking, folks? Let us know if you are watching live, and if you aren't watching live, where have you been? We tune in on 7:15 every Tuesday night for the WOR Legacy Division, and if you are not watching live, please do tune in, because we are on our final stretch of this season of Legacy Division, and these drivers will be keen to show every ounce of strength that they've got, that they are the next generation of F1 esports drivers from console.
Yes, I don't know if you call that, Jota. I just watched an amazing overtake there by but I'm going to say AMS, like says his game attack. Either way, round the outside of turn 4 on Phil. That was brave. Phil left in the space, so kudos to him. Well, that was a great move, great opportunistic move there from Knight, and certainly showing that these hard tyres are actually now coming into play. And I think he's now going to get a move done here on Simbox. Fends the inside line, but doesn't really put up much of a fight. Knight now goes up into P10, 2.5 seconds off Monza, Simba's teammate in front of him. But yeah, these hard tyres are now certainly coming into play. So the drivers that started on those hards, those being Knight, Misha, Alex, Ivan Eskrik, and Mashuzo, going for a different strategy, but at the moment, it's, at least for Knight's sake, it is paying off. He's actually gaining and closing in already on the lead cars in front of him. So keep an eye on that as this race unfolds. ET8 have come out next to one another pretty much. They seem mostly getting that jump on his teammate with pitting the lap earlier, but they're now just going to drag each other along, obviously with DRS, using the battery where possible and where it's best to do so. But keep an eye on their pace. Let's see what they can do. It's an 18.9 there from Azim on his latest attempt, which is actually a second quicker than Oscar out in front.
Yeah, and he's about 0.3 faster than his last personal best as well from Azim, so he is now starting to fly on these hard tyres. The question is this going to continue, and actually, are they going to be in prime position to potentially cause a little bit of a stir when it comes to the strategy? SCI and Volakongan are now just around about 0.6 of a second to Quantum. He has found a little bit of pace, but he's not going to find pace going sideways through turn 10 like that. He's managed to stay within the 0.6 barrier, but he is now beginning a little bit of a push, a little bit of an inside lockup as well from that McLaren Mercedes of Quantum. But again, looking like he's not really putting too much pressure now on Oscar. They're just happy to hold station and just work with each other around this part of the circuit as they now come across the final corner. And once again, no pit stops being made at all from the front 5. 5. Oh, was that a mistake from Quantum? I think it was. He got a little bit of a rear end instability on the back end, and that has cost him around about 3/10 of a second, 2 or 3/10 of a second to Oscar. So he'll now begin a push to try and get back in around about half a second barrier to find a little bit of comfort, as we've got more people pitting, and that actually being the teammate of Quantum, Dan, alongside TF10 team's Tiago, who has also pitted as well. They're on a fresh set of hard tyres. Where are they going to be in comparison to ET8 as they come through there? FRT Dan gets jumped by both of the ET8 men, 16th and 17th respectively. 5.5 seconds they've got until they hit the next car, which is Mattia for the RSC team, not TF10, RSC in P15.
Indeed, yeah, then there's another 4-second gap in front of them, so it's working out for ET8 at the moment. You're clear down, and bear in mind, Dan was a net P6, at the in the race at the time before he pits. So yeah, certainly it's a good job by ET8. It's certainly going to pay dividends in the early stages as well. There's Simbrox one's connection unfortunately giving way, and once again he has lagged out, which is unfortunate for QRT. They were looking pretty good here tonight, but unfortunately Simba's connection decided that it didn't want to work again for the time being. But Quantum has now dropped out of the DRS of Oscar. He struggled on this lap, and there we go. He's going into the box. Now is the time for him to pit. Closely followed by Volakongan and T-Show. So the lead driver's now going into the box. Ventauri, though, both drivers still stay out. So one of them's going to lose out big style, if not both of them, as it is. The 3 seconds near off the back of Oscar. Interesting strategy call there from them. I thought one of them would have gone in the pits.
Where's Sergio coming across the final corner? It's going to be interesting to see where Sergio and co are going to be in comparison to Quantum. Quantum is just leaving the pits. There he is. Where's ETA going to come in comparison? They're going to the side. Oh my goodness me, that was so close between the pair of them. It looks like ETA have been split by the McLaren there of Quantum. It looks like the move is going to be done. ETA have just managed to jump Quantum. That's a prospective P2, P3 as it stands then. But Oscar was 9/10 of a second behind in front of Quantum, sorry. If this pace has got anything to go by, ET8 could start managing the race pace here, but they've got to get the jump on Oscar. It's fairly critical now that these drivers are pushing, and by the looks of things, they have considered that, and they are now pushing really hard, using as much overtake as they can because they know they're on the brink.
It's a good strategy call. I mean, it might be short-term gain, long-term pay, but the fact that both drivers are leading out in front, ahead of both McLarens, they have FRT behind them. They can control this as much as they can, but Quantum will realise this. His tyres will now be slowly getting up to temperature on his hard tyres. They do take a little longer. Oscar now dives into the pits, so we'll keep it out where he comes out in relation to Sergio and Asim. But yes, ET8 with a bold strategy call, pitting early. It's got them track position, but can they hold off to the end of the race? Time will only tell. We're only on lap 11 out of 29, only a third distance at the moment. But here comes Oscar. He's leaving the pit box now. Indeed, we do. There he is. He's leaving the pit box now. He's coming back out onto the circuit. Where is Sergio going to be all this? Oscar's going to be just
close.
No, he split them though.
He has split them. That's critical. That's critical. Oscar is going to want to get this one done as quick as he possibly can. He doesn't want to be dictated by ET8 here, but look at this. Azim has sent it right down the inside of the SCI man. They're still side by side through here, squeezed off of the circuit, and Azim knows that they need to get in front of Oscar on this occasion. He wasn't able to do so. They've missed out by just 10ths of a second in that early undercut, but remember, their hard tyres are now considerably older in comparisons to Oscar. What's Sergio got to do? He's got to try and hold Oscar up. He's got to try and get Azim along here, and it looks like he's using as much overtake as he can. Is he going to look for the move? Probably not going into turn 9, but he might look for it going into turn 11. Here comes Azim. Overtake going to be used. Is he going to get anywhere near the back end of Oscar with that DRS available for Oscar as a result of the back of his teammate? I don't think so. He'll get in his wing mirror, try and force an error, but no. Ice cold from Oscar. He continues to split the ET8 boys. Not ideal, but not the worst case scenario for ET8.
Certainly not, as the VNT finally have their first driver going into the box, so they're going the very long-term gain in having much fresher tyres. But this is definitely what ETA did not want, was a car in between both of their drivers, and it now certainly means that Asim is going to come under more pressure from Quantum, who had 2 attempts on that previous lap to try and get ahead of the ETA Alpine man. Riding on board with him now, not really close enough to make a move into turn 3. Monza has gone into the pits and has retired. Not too sure why that was. I don't know what incident he's had, but that's his race done and dusted for QRT. QRT, and Simrock's one has lagged out of the session. So what was looking good for QRT, I may have just jinxed them after their qualifying, and yeah, they may potentially not go up into P7. But yeah, Quantum will want to get closer to Asim, but it's not really happening this time around. But Oscar, quarter of a second on the back of Sergio, he's going to have the DRS, he's got the battery to make a move. Surely this is the time now for him to get ahead of Sergio, and what will be the net race that he's going to be on the outside though, going into the start of the final sector. Either way, Sergio doesn't really defend it too much in the end. He slots back in behind, and Oscar retic against that position ahead of him.
Oh, it's not worked at all for ETA as well, because now they have absolutely hemorrhaged all of their ERS as well, so they're going to have no power at all down this main straight. So you're just going to see Oscar, despite the DRS for Sergio, is just going to continue to pull away. Max van der Geest finally in to get off of his medium tyres, so now only drivers that are in front of those that have pitted or those that are started on the hard tyres. Oscar is now, I believe, if my math works out right, about 2 seconds behind Mashuzo for IRT. Either way, he has a time penalty as well. That could harm his long-term aspects of this race. But you may think Oscar might now just be in prime position to start pulling away, but because now he's got a bunch of back markers, or he will consider back markers in front of him, that could invite ETA right back into the mix. So this is not all done and dusted, folks. And remember, where they end up dropping points, FRT will be very happy to take all the points all they can, because Valakongan is behind both of the McLaren Mercedes, and while that's happening, Ventauri are behind Valakongan and Tiago, so FRT are in good position here to earn some big points off of their rivals for P3 in the championship.
Asim has lost the DRS though on the back of his teammate. Quantum says thank you very much at the first opportunity. He gets that move done. Dan on now will want to try and do the same thing. Asim's got no battery. Here comes Dan for a move down the outside into turn 11. Can he get this done? A bit of wheel-to-wheel banging there. Bit of a slide as well for Asim. That is the lack of grip that he's got on his 3-lap older tyres compared to Dan. And Dan gets the move done. So what looked promising for ETA, that simple few tenths that they didn't have to jump Oscar, has now cost one of their drivers. Asim now down to P10, now Valakongan closing in.
Yeah, that's critical, isn't it, here as Oscar gets the move done. No issue at all on Mashuzo for IRT. Sergio trying to get as close as he can. He needs to get this overtake done as quickly as he possibly can, because he doesn't want to lose time behind what he would consider a back marker. And it looks like the IRT man's not going to make it particularly easy for him. And it looks like he's going to defend it. No, he elects in the end to just tuck in behind. Sergio will now be able to consider a gap between him. And now, of course, FRT will be saying, we need to get past this man as quickly as we possibly can. But critically, they will actually get DRS off of the back of the Toyota Gazoo Racing Haas F1 team car. DRS will be available here now for Quantum. He'll be able to lose the time, or gain the time back that he will have lost behind here the Haas driver, and he'll be able to get as close as he possibly can, potentially to Sergio, and he will have DRS on Sergio, while Sergio is not going to have DRS on Oscar, because the gap is now 1.5.
DJ got held up a little bit too much, I think, in the end by the Haas, and yeah, that's all that Oscar needed. He didn't need a second invitation. He got that gap now. Dan goes ahead of Mashuzo in the meantime, gets up into P8 and behind his teammate. Now it's Asim's turn, but he's now got this queue of drivers behind him, of Valakongan, Tiago, and Leon on his much fresher tyres, has already closed in on the back of this second train, as it were, but he's got a 3-second time penalty that he's just picked up on this lap. So what might have been looking good for Leon with his fresher tyres is now a little bit of a disadvantage, and it might not even pay off for him. So it could be down to his teammate Max van der Geest, who's a good 3 seconds behind him on 1 lap fresher tyres again. In the meantime, as Oscar goes ahead of the next sort of back market, as it were, of Misha, and now moving on to Ivan Eskrig.
And I'm going to make one thing clear as well, with those older tyres for Sergio, what has been a completely podiumless run for FRT, except for that race victory in Monaco, round number 1, all those months ago. Suddenly, I think they're on the fringes of potentially a double podium here for 2nd and 3rd place, because these tyres are falling completely off a cliff for Sergio. Down the inside they will go then at what would be turn 9, but is not documented as such, because this is turn 9. Quantum gets the move done on Sergio. Dan is just tucked in behind, but he's struggling with his ERS management, so it might take him a few more corners to get past the stricken ET8 team. They've tried to do something different, in fairness to them. They didn't qualify well at all, and they are paying the price massively as a result of their extremely poor qualifying. Tyres are looking like they're really starting to fall off a cliff for those on now 14 lap old hard tyres. Here's Quantum trying to get past Misha as quickly as he possibly can. Plenty of ERS at his disposal in that McLaren Mercedes. No move as of yet, but it will be imminent as Sergio is just able to hold on in between the McLaren Mercedes sandwich that is Quantum and Dan. But again, those tyres really starting to fall off.
Indeed they are. You know, if it's bad enough as it is for those on 15 lap old tyres, imagine what it's going to be like as well for Sergio and Azim, who are on, you know, barely less fresher tyres themselves, as Quantum now getting held up here through turns 4 and turn 5 on that Kickstarter. He's not going to want to go for a move. He'll just want the DRS and just get a comfortable move done. But he's got Azim now Sergio gearbox and his teammate FRT Dan. Could we have 3 drivers here get ahead of the Kickstarter with the aid of DRS? It certainly might not spring up a few surprises, but it might cause a bit of carnage, as there goes Quantum, there goes Sergio. Dan not quite close enough to get a move done. He want to try and get it done at least down into turn 11 under braking. He's going to have the DRS himself, and he's got plenty of battery at his disposal. Moves over to the left hand side, which will now become the racing line into turn 11. Easy move done there. All 3 drivers get ahead of Misha, as in behind Vola Congan and Leon have now both got ahead of Asim. So Asim now dropping further down the field. He's now down to P11.
Oh, ETA are really hemorrhaging time hand over fist, and they can't even pit that earlier either onto another set of hard tyres if they wanted to, because they're only going to face exactly the same problem. They've got to hang out a little bit and potentially go for a little bit of a scrap of points here. Sergio's doing the best he can with these old hard tyres, but ET8 Caesar just really has been the absolute epitome of the season, is defined here as one that they've got the pace, they've shown that they've got the pace, and then just the fact is that everything has not fallen in line at all for the Spanish outfit, and the Achilles heel curse that is the World Online Racing's Legacy division will continue for the Spanish outfit as it stands, as Mashuzo gets a 3-second time penalty for IRT. That's for continuation of track extensions. So lap 17 of 29, we are 12 laps to go in this race, as Alex Loffa has just been overtaken by Shizu Oscar, who is really starting to put a foot down now on this race win. It's looking very categorical here for the Shizu Cedar Igniter. He'll now try and get as close as he can to Knights, that's the EVR man, as they will pit imminently, as it looks like Ivan Eskrig and Sergio getting into their own little battle. Sergio getting the move done. FRT Dan will want to try and get past the AMR driver as quickly as he possibly can.
Indeed he will. Oh my word, that is Asim and Misha coming to contact, and Misha's been sent into the gravel there, coming through turn 12. Was it? I mean, it was about half a car. There's the confirmation. It's a 2-stop for ET8 out of all this, and they're going to go on to another set of hard tyres and just try to go for outright pace at the end of this race, but they've got to gain a full pit stop. Surely that's not doable.
Yeah, this is going to be fairly critical here, because now they're going to do 11 laps now on a set of hard tyres to the end of this race. For Azim, it will be 10 for Sergio if they pit him in at the end of this lap. But remember, they will be the fastest driver on circuit, but their track position is absolutely abysmal. Top 15 score points in WOR Legacy Division. Azim, on the other hand, as it looks like we've just lost a driver. I think Raphael's just gone for a spin at turn 1. Azim is not even in the points as it stands so far, P16. And he may also have a shooting inquiry lingering over his head if he did collide into the side of Misha, who, by the way, is on a fresh set of mediums. He wants to go to the end on a fresh set of mediums, 11 laps. Ooh, bold call, but it is doable. We've seen it with Max von der Gies. He has done it before.
Indeed, it's a bold call, but it's the only tyres you could have gone on after starting on the hard, so you had to go to a different set of compounded tyres. The softs just not doable, so it had to be the mediums for Misha there, going for an undercut, I guess you could say, to try and gain back some time that he lost, whether that was through his own fault or not at all. His teammate, Knight now goes in box. Did a good job there, did Knight, actually, on those hard compound tyres in the end, but obviously I had to relinquish the lead to Oscar, who now has the net race lead here on lap 19, and the gap is 3.7 seconds over Quantum. So bear in mind, there was 9 tenths between them at the end of the first pit stops. That gap's grown by 3 seconds near enough now, just showing the pace that Oscar has had. The track position that he had was key as well, and he's getting the, it's just been flawless, I think it's fair to say, as even Eskrig fending off Dan there into turn 3. Dan now losing time to his teammate, which is not going to be of any beneficiary for him by the time he gets ahead of even Eskrig, because he's going to come under threat from a Volakongan and a Leon. Yes, he has a time penalty, but look how pressure his tyres are compared to the two in front of them. And Max van der Geest is closing in as well. So Ventauri's later pit stop might actually turn out good.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm just going to see Dan. He's going to get this move done going into turn number 9, but he has got absolutely no power whatsoever in that McLaren Mercedes. He's hemorrhaging all of his ERS because he didn't want to go for a long-term scrap with Ivan Eskrig. And while this is happening, Volakongan has just got that move done. Absolutely no issue whatsoever. Dan was not brave enough to send it down the inside of turn 1 against Ivan Eskrig, and I think that might have just now made FRT's double podium chances much more difficult. He has got to now save as much of that electrical energy as he can in that Mercedes power unit, whilst trying to hold back a very quick Volakongan who has got DRS on Dan, while Dan is 1.7 seconds back on Quantum. Let's be candid. Oscar's won this race. If FRT have got any nouts on them at the moment, they're going to tell Quantum, slow down, help your teammate out, give him DRS.
That would certainly be what they'd have to do. It just reminds me of Singapore, where Carlos kept Lando in his his DRS on purpose because he knew he couldn't make a move with the fast-catching Mercedes duo of Hamilton and George Russell there. So, yeah, certainly that's what I would be doing. I mean, Dan, to give him his credit, has maintained the gap to 1.7 seconds. In fact, he's ever so slightly closing, and in fact, he's pulling away from Volakonga. But Volakonga, what we were in the slightest is he's got the DRS, but he's obviously got 2 Red Bull VNT drivers behind him. And there we go. There is the swap of positions, because obviously Max van der Geest has the 1-lap fresher tyres and does not have a penalty compared to his teammate. So, strategy call there from Ventauri. Let the quicker driver go and let him have a go at Volakonga and Dan.
Quick information about what happened with Monza, by the way. He retired in the pit lane after a collision with T of 10 Team's Ticho. Apparently, he committed to braking in a flat-out corner. So there'll be a stewarding inquiry about that collision, which saw Monza retire in the pit lane and reduce ourselves down to 19 runners in this race. FRT, Dan, Tiago has gone. Tiago's gone for a spin. Have we got a safety car? We certainly do. The safety car is now out, and that has completely turned this race on its head. The safety car is now out and people are going to be pitting. It won't be a massive hysteria for those that are down at the back. They won't gain any positions, of course, because they're still going to be behind by 40% race speed, but it's absolutely critical here now. 8 laps to go. We'll have 4 laps behind the safety car. It's surely now a set of softs to the end of this race. All people stripping mediums on. I'm seeing mediums. I'm seeing hards as well.
Yeah, I think some of them I don't think had a choice. I mean, Misha didn't have a choice on mediums. It depends if balance or harder. So, yeah, he's obviously committed to that. What this does do is it throws ET8's strategy out of the window with that 2-stop strategy that they were going for. I mean, yeah, they're going to close back in on the field, which helps them in a way. But what do? Do they stay out? Do they commit to maybe being at the front? Or do they go for a pit stop? I mean, but the thing is that where they are on track, in respective, obviously, to Oscar, they won't jump him. And I don't think they'd even jump Quantum as well. You know, They might get ahead of the likes of Dan and co. But it's a difficult one to call for them as to what they do. But yeah, Tiago just dropped it out of the final corner. Lack of traction, too much power maybe, and that was him, head first into the wall. Tyre just went completely up in the air. For me, at least, it did anyway. Spectacular crash. But this is just... Well, Oscar's not going to be happy. His 4.5-second lead is gone. It's been wiped out. He's going to have to now do that all over again and defend. But everyone's going to be pitted, and I think it's going to be for medium tyres. The softs, I don't think are going to be they're going to die at the end of the race. So I think mediums are the way to go. I say that. I'm seeing for hards, just like you were saying earlier. Maybe that's what
I think Dan's been caught out a little bit as well, because he was a bit hesitant getting into his pit box as Volakonga got the jump on him, I think. Has he got the jump on him? No, he hasn't on this occasion. I thought Dan may have been at risk here. He's on a fresh set of hard tyres. Quantum on a fresh set of hard tyres. Oscar on a fresh set of hard tyres. Alex Loffer and AMS Knight have elected to stay out on their medium tyres. They've only put a few laps on those medium tyres, so they will certainly now go to the end. They won't feel the freshest, but they'll be certainly a lot better if they were in full race trim. So now we've got an EVR and an AMR driver on the podium as it stands, and while this is happening, Sergio and Azim have elected to stay out, and they have split the two FRT men. Sergio now up to 5th on aging hard tyres. Azim up to 7th on aging hard tyres. They've jumped both of the Ventauris. Leon now down to P12. Yes, it's not going to be a double podium as it stands here for FRT, but they're going to be outscoring Ventauri massively here. This is brilliant for them for P3 in the standings.
Certainly is, yeah. I mean, even though that Dan was obviously behind his own teammate of Quantum, he was by a couple of seconds, so he may have slowed down just enough to not be held up too much, whereas VNT didn't have that. Leon was still on the back of his teammates, so he was going to lose out all the time, as well as the fact, obviously, we've got some drivers who didn't even box. You know, the likes of even Eskrig has jumped in, because he didn't make a pit stop. The likes of Knight and Alex, as you said, have not pit either. They've just gone on to mediums. They may as well stay out on those. They can cool those down for a few laps. This will work wonders for them, especially on the restart. Oscar might come under threat from Knight here. I can't believe I'm saying this. Knight's up in P2 and Alex in P3. They were, you know, what, in the mid-pack at best, I think, you know, if not down the lower end of the points. And they've now got a chance potentially of a podium.
Yeah, I'm just trying to do the maths here as well, and I've got a gut feeling, if my math works it out right at the moment, SCI are not going to be gaining massive points on ET8 as a result of this. This is assuming the race finishes as it stands right now, because if I remember the points total as it is, the situation report is that Oscar will obviously take the race victory here tonight, but if he elects to, you know, continue as he is and continue to race win here, he requires Valakongan to really up the ante and put some pace and put some gap here, some lap time in against the likes of ET8 here, because ET8 are still going to earn decent points, but will those tyres last in comparison to the race pace and the tyre delta not be as aggressive, shall we say? And remember, those medium tyre runners of Knight and Alex Loffer, remember, they are on medium tyres. They are going to be on the quicker tyre, but they are not the quicker driver. Tyre delta will only go so far, and that could completely mix up as well when you've got the likes of Quantum and Dan, who are in their own fight, remember, with Ventauri for 3rd place in the hunt. It's such a mind-bending scenario happening here with now 6 laps to go. The safety car will not be in at the end of this lap because we're still waiting on Raphael, who's taking his sweet time getting around the circuit. You know, what's it going to be? If my math works it out right, is that going to be a 5-lap sprint to the end?
By the time the Raphael closes in, yeah, we're going to be getting underway at the lap 25, so it is going to be a 5-lap sprint to the end of this race. And you've obviously got most drivers on hard compounded tyres. A lot of them have just pit on fresh hards. You've got ET8 on 4 and 5 lap old hard tyres respectively. Then you've got those on the mediums that are just pit and obviously decided that they're just going to stay out on those because they're going to be fine now to get to the end of the race themselves. So it's shaking this field up. It's shaking the whole grid up. And you've got drivers at the front that weren't there initially, apart from Oscar, who's, you know, pretty much led this race from the start, apart from the crossover from the mediums and hard tyre runners. But then you've obviously got, you know, the likes of Leon now down in P12, you know, Volkongan down in P9, you know, they've lost out big style because of this, and even the likes of, you know, Quantum and Dan as well, you know, Quantum now not on the podium. You'd expect him to try and get that back, but Knight and Alex are not going to just wave the flag and let him go. They've got their own battle themselves, and this is a good opportunity for them to score, you know, big points for their teams as Raphael pits again and now goes on to the soft compounded tyre, the only driver to do so. And you know what, with 5 laps to go, that might actually work.
Potentially, we'll see. And either way, we'll get to the back of this grid and it will be the 25th lap where we get started and 5 laps to the end of this race. As it stands so far, SCI will outscore ET8 by 19 points with this race result, but Valakongan surely should be the one that starts to make some serious inroads. And of course, this is all determined by the fact whether ET8's tyres will actually go the distance before the tyre delta becomes a significant factor. We will see. Either way, they're coming across now the final couple of corners, and there is the confirmation that the safety car is in at the end of this lap. So Raphael will get his skates on to get to the back of this queue as quickly as he possibly can, as Oscar will become the de facto safety car for only the first time in this race, by the way, folks, after Tiago crashing out. I believe it was at the final corner where he ended up spinning into the pit wall, and that was his race done and dusted. Oscar will now warm the tyres up. He will lead the drivers away. Now, he can't go just yet. The safety car's still going around turn 12 at the moment as he now approaches turn 11. The Mercedes will try and leave this, I reckon, as early as he possibly can, because he will want to try, if he can, to get the jump on these two medium tyre runners and try and put a gap between him and Quantum, who has been very quick throughout this race weekend. Safety car is now in the pit lane and they'll have full control over this one. Oscar leaving now here, and he has completely caught the medium tyres napping as they now approach the final corner and come across the start finishing line. It is a 5-lap dash to the end, folks. We go green again here in Australia. He gets a really good start, does Oscar, against Knight and Loeffler. Quantum knows that he's not battling for that race lead. He just needs to battle with the medium tyre runners. We've got 3-second time penalties galore. Simbarox 1 and Ticho getting 3-second time penalties for them. It's a mistake from Knight. That might invite Alex Loeffler into the battle for P2 here. Knight still holding on here for EVR, though. Remember, they are also got nothing to fight for, nothing really aggressive to fight for either for their team's championship. So this is pure pride for a podium for AMR, of course, who have got that race victory earlier on this season, and EVR, who are also looking very sharp this season, and they could do with another podium themselves. Here they go, side by side through here. The media tyre runners able to hold on, but it's a 5-lap dash to the end. They don't want to burn their tyres too quickly, otherwise these hard tyre runners will just eat them up for breakfast. Heading through then, turn number 10 as they approach turn number 11. Again, DRS not available until the end of this lap, so Quantum has just got to get as close as he can to these two and consider DRS with the 4 DRS zones available on this circuit and try and get this one done and put a gap between him and Sergio. But Sergio himself is actually holding station. It looks like, despite the fact that they're on aged hard tyres, the grip is just about there for ETA. Is this race potentially back on for the Spanish outfit? Is it going to be a damage limitation again?
It certainly could be. Maybe that safety car was their saving grace. The fact that Oscar has pulled 2 seconds or more out on Knight and that first flying lap was just absolute manic. There's pace, and then there is pace. But what gets me is the fact that Quantum's not being able to capitalise on the mistakes from both, well, Knight in particular. Alex was obviously trying to go for a move there, potentially into turn 9, but nothing really doing. Obviously, DRS is now going to be available to the down this back sort of straight as T-Show is going to the pit. He's obviously picked up damage. He's now going to be on sauce to the end. Well, that's his race done and dusted. But here comes Quantum now with the DRS. He's going to try and go turn, but want to go for a move on Knight. There we go now. Going in towards turn 8. He's going to be on the outside, though. Knight defending to the inside line. But I don't think he's going to be able to hold him off. And the answer is he doesn't. Alex goes into P2. Knight down to P3. This is Quantum's chance now, though, to get back onto the podiums. He's got the battery deployment, he's using all of that as he can, but Knight's just got enough, and with a bit of slipstream in front of him, didn't really come under threat from the McLaren behind him, and at least holds on to P3 for now with just 3 laps to go.
Yeah, and he's burning his ERS at a rate of knots as well, so he's going to find himself in trouble defending the position if he keeps using it too much. He's got to play it gingerly and play it carefully as he comes around turn number 14 and gets on the power. And I tell you what, the medium tyres are still got a little bit of life for them, because out of that corner, Knight was looking very strong on these medium tyres, but the question is will they go the distance for the next couple of laps? Quantum is trying to get closer. He cuts the corner at turn 1. I'm surprised if he doesn't have a warning for that one. At least he's trying to get as close as he possibly can, but I'm going to be honest with you here, he's actually under a little bit of pressure from Sergio, but Sergio himself is under a lot of pressure from FRT. Dan, they really could do with these big points here. P4 and P5 would be very ideal, considering Ventari are currently P8 and P12. Remember, they're in their scrap for P3 in the standings at the moment, and this will certainly help their chances of potentially securing a top 3 spot for the FRT and their best finish in WOR Legacy Division. Quantum will continue to chase down Knight, but look at the gap has formed. It's now 8.5 tenths between him and Knight at the moment. They're in their own little scrap for the medium tyre runners. They've really switched on the tyres, and with 1.5 laps to go in this race, rather 2.5 laps in this race to go now, you've got to say here, actually, Quantum is not on the front foot here against these two in front.
No, it might actually come to a last lap potential overtake from him if he's to have anything done, but at the moment it's certainly not looking likely. And as he just locks up for good measure as well, going to the penultimate corner, it seems like he's struggling a little bit. He's caught that gap back up again. Maybe he's just saving that battery just a little bit to try and go for a move. But the problem is his battery's actually ever so slightly less than compared to both medium tyre runners in front of him, so it's not really paying any dividends for him. He had a much better run there through turn 1 though, much better on the brakes compared to Knight, but he's just not close enough, and Knight's just comfortable to stick within Alex's DRS, and he might actually, to be fair, go for a scrap with him on the final lap if possible. But we'll see how that plays out. Nobody else really making any moves at the moment. I think consider though, Jota, is Ventari as well being with Leon down in P12 has that time penalty, and at the moment it's only going to finish P14 at best as it currently stands. So that will certainly help FRT, but they need to get a move done, especially Dan needs to get ahead of Sergio with those fresher tyres.
Yeah, needs to get it done as quickly as he possibly can. Here's food for thought for you as well, guys. Here's food for thought you as well here, Bobbers. What if Alex Loeffler and Knight are working with each other? What if at the moment AMR and EVR are working with each other, stay within each other's DRS, and even if these medium tyres fall off, the guys behind can't overtake? It's later! Oh, it's a very quick, a little bit of a clip up the bum there from Quantum against Knight. It might have just felt that one a little bit, and now he's going to be thinking, oh, this is going to be a bit precarious as we start the final lap of this race. Gap is about 6.5 tenths to Alex Loeffler. If AMR have got anything to go by, they would help the guy in the green machine out. But here he goes. Look at that, straight out the corner. The medium tyres have got that grip, and Knight is able to get as close as he possibly can to Alex Loeffler. And I do think Alex is just getting off the throttle a little bit early. A bit of Lyco action maybe from the AMR driver, because they know winners must here. Sergio's going for it down the inside against Quantum. Quantum really doesn't want to scrap too hard here. Remember, they're battling with VNT in the standings. They continue to go side by side. Sergio is still looking for it, but no move there for Sergio, and they might have to just consolidate this one as FRT Dan might get closer as well. Oh, he's off out wide is Sergio as well. He might, if he goes for this overtake, he might find himself in a bit of trouble from FRT here, because they'll certainly send this one to the stewards. He went out wide, and he's going to get this move done. He's going to have to go to the stewards about that one, because they'll say that he went off track and gained an advantage, and I have to say we'll talk about that one in a second, Bobbers, as we're going to start. We're on the final lap of this race, by the way, folks, so while this is happening, it looks like a little bit potential of an overtake maybe here for the McLarens, as they just have to hold station for 5th and 6th place, but whether Sergio holds on to that 4th place or not is another question. Oscar has been flying from start to finish, and he'll be so happy with the performance as the Suzuki Igniters continue with their form with the race victory here in Australia. Alex Loeffler comes across the line in P2 from EVR's Knight. P3, what a valiant effort from the midfielders. Sergio in 4th from Quantum, Dan and Azim, Max von der Giegs, Vora Kongen and Ivan Eskrig rounding out the top 10. Phil, Mattia, Misha, Leon and Simbarox 1 round out the points haulers from P15, and then Matsuoto, and then you've got Raphael who's reversing over the grid because that's what he's like, and Ticho finishing in P18. Oscar is your race victor tonight. I am going to make a bold claim here, though. I don't think Sergio's keeping P4 for that track extension at this corner right here. That's turn number 6, and the FRT will no doubt claim that was track extension and gained an advantage.
Same again, obviously coming in through turn 7. I mean, yeah, you could arguably say that he lost time with the wiggle that he had, which he did, but the fact is you still go off track to then make an overtake, and yeah, technicalities would say that that is a potential penalty coming his way, but we'll have to see what FRT do. Send that into the stewards, but all that also came down that Quantum could just not get the move done on Knight in front of him on those medium tyres. And Sergio kept his battery, which what gave him that opportunity to go for that move. Either way, though, no such issues, as you said, for Oscar out in front. And that race restart was absolutely flawless. That was exactly what he needed. It didn't have any threat, in the end. 5 seconds near enough was the race-winning margin. But, I mean, what a turn up for the books, though, because of a safety car. Who would have said that this would have been your top 3? I mean, yeah, Oscar's pace was there from start to finish. He wins from pole position. But who would have thought that Alex from P16 finishes P2? Fair play. I mean, yeah, you get a bit of help, but you've got to take advantage of it when it comes, and he certainly did.
Yeah, he certainly has to on that one as well. So, I'm just making my point clear here. I really don't think Sergio is going to be keeping that one, but we'll see. Either way, he finishes in P4. What a valiant effort from Alex Loeffler and AMS Knight to finish P2 and P3 respectively, and a great effort from Oscar as well. So a great effort, and fastest lap from Ticho, by the way, on the softest tyre on the lap 17th place as well. Quantum and Dan 5th and 6th respectively from Azim, and then the rest of the team, as you see right there. We will need to just hop over at the end of this one because we have got to look at the calendar. We are at Japan next week for what will no doubt be a very interesting race at the Suzuka circuit before we go to the Temple of Speed for our final sprint race of the season, as well as, of course, the main race on November 25. On December 3, we're at Saudi Arabia. December 10th, our season finale on round number 15 of season 6 at where else but Abu Dhabi. Bobbers, look, it gives us an opportunity to very quickly talk about this as well, because we're going to have to be perfectly honest with each other here. Look, Sergio went off of the circuit. He might have had a wiggle on, but because he had a much straighter exit out of that corner, he got the move done on Quantum. How in the hell can ET8 claim that they can keep that position? Because to me, that's going off track and gaining an advantage, isn't it?
I mean, yeah, it's off track no matter what way that you look at it, whether he gained time or lost time. The fact that still off the track before them going for an overtaking opportunity. So yeah, like I said, as technicalities go, that move should not have happened. He should have stayed in behind Quantum. But obviously, as a racing driver's mentality, you want to go for struggling. And probably saw that obviously he was derating as well. He had no battery to help him going down that that DRS straight. So yeah, mentality would say go for the move because you want to get it done. But then at the same time, you've got to think a little logical and a bit of common sense maybe to think, maybe I should then wait through turns, 9 and 10 and maybe go for a move down into turn 11 where he would have had another opportunity to get the move done there. Because again, Quantum will have still had no battery to help defend. But then again, he also had Dan closing in behind who could have gone for the move done himself. So it's one of those, you look at both ends of the coin, I guess you could say. But yeah, either way, I certainly think that something could come Sergio's way. FAT was certainly put in an inquiry, which will obviously promote their drivers if they can, and certainly close the gap even more so on Ventauri.
Yes, that is going to be the one that we mentioned. I'm just having a quick look at the standings to see if we've got any updates in terms of the points haul. I appreciate that everyone has been extremely busy this season and throughout this entire championship, and especially tonight. I think the standings are just now being plotted in. But what I am aware of at the moment is this is assuming P4 remains in the hands of Sergio. Again, I don't think it will. But as it stands so far, ET8's points haul, points deficit to SCI is now 78. It's 664, plays 586. Ventauri, as a result of their performance, are currently, FRT are currently on 234. And if I'm right in saying, Leon finished P14, was that right?
Yes.
Something like that. So I think that means Ventauri are on 256. So I think that points deficit has gone from about 46 to 22. As a result of that one. That's the battle for P3. That's getting spicy. I'm very, very interested in how P3 is going to turn out as well. And it's also a very good point haul from AMR as well. As a result of that P2, they now retake P5 out of the hands of IRT. So they're now up to P5 as a result. IRT are P6. EVR with their podium as well. Their first podium of this season as well. Now on to 122. And in what is even better news, if I think my... everything works out right, as TF10 managed to overtake HR. I'm not sure, we'll figure that out in a second. Either way, what a valiant effort indeed from the team and from everyone here at WOR Legacy. We are now taking obviously our sweet time as we head over to the next race over in Japan. What are the expectations for this one, do you think then?
I mean, well, it's a completely different circuit to obviously what we've had tonight. It's another legendary circuit. You got the S section there at the start. You've obviously got, Dunlop. You've got, Spoon Curve. You've got. It's an amazing track overall, but it's certainly a track that also has its issues in terms of, through the SEs, you could easily run too wide, get caught out on the grass and onto the gravel, especially if the car loses the rear end through Dunlop. So, yeah, it's another different challenge, obviously, for the drivers as to who's going to be racing for their teams next week. But it's a fun one, though, no matter how you race on it. For me, at least, anyway, Jota, it's up there as one of the best circuits on the entire calendar, if not in both on racing and in real life. So I'm looking forward to it. I sure hope the drivers will be as well. Can they bring up the same excitement as we've had tonight? Time will only tell.
Yeah, just a quick one as well, actually. I've just had, who was it now? I think it was Chris over at ETA, who says, could you just say it one more time on stream? I didn't hear it, so I'll say it again. I don't think Sergio will keep that position, Chris, because he track extended at turn 6, and I think as a result, you're going to get a 5-second penalty, and you might lose more positions as a result. Sorry. That is the end of this race. What a fabulous race it has been at Australia, and what fabulous form SCI will continue to be in. They only dropped significant points in Britain. Otherwise, every single race this season, in fact, every single race this season, they have been on the podium. It's magnificent from Mercedes and the Suzuki Igniters. They'll perhaps continue their form into Japan. Will ETA get their act together, potentially earn some big points, try and close down that gap on SCI before the end of the season? And remember that strong battle between P3 for P3 between Ventari and FRT. That's getting spicy. Should be an absolute cracker. We'll see you next time in Japan. Take care. Ta-ra.